Now, before we dive deep in the content of the business analysis fundamentals, there are few terminology which I want you to be aware of before we proceed with this section content. So this lecture describes common vocabulary necessary for working in and understanding the discipline of business analysis. So starting with business analysis itself, business analysis can be defined as the application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques in order to determine problems and opportunities, and to identify business needs and recommend viable solutions to meet those needs and support strategic decision making, elicit, analyze, specify, communicate, and manage requirements and other product information. A big part of the business analysis efforts will be around managing the product requirements and product information, and finally define benefits and approaches for measuring and realizing value and analyzing those results. So business analysis is around the application of your knowledge as a business analyst or project manager, skills, tools, and techniques to obtain these benefits. In short, business analysis is the set of activities performed to support the delivery of solutions that align to business objectives and provide continuous value to the organization. Business analysis is conducted in support of solution development through portfolios, programs, and projects, as well as ongoing operational activities such as monitoring, modeling, and forecasting. The practices defined within the PMI Guide to Business Analysis apply wherever business analysis is conducted, regardless of the type of the project or the industry of the project. Now, the role of the business analyst may be performed by any individual, regardless of the person's job title. In the PMI Guide to Business Analysis, the person who perform business analysis processes will be referred to as a business analyst. The term is being used in the broad sense and represents all the roles that are responsible for performing business analysis activities across industries or within organizations, regardless of whether the work is performed to support portfolios, programs, or projects. So in some situations, the duties or the activities the business analyst should be performed are being performed by a project manager or a project coordinator or a program manager. But if this role or this person is dedicated to do the business analysis activities, as per the PMI Guide to Business Analysis, he is or she is known as the business analyst. Many portfolios, programs, and projects require a team of individuals to perform business analysis, and in these scenarios, the term business analyst will also be applied. The third term is the product, which we will use frequently in this section, and in general, the majority of the business analysis activities are being conducted around the concept of the product or the solution. A product is an artifact that is produced. It's quantifiable and can be either an end item in itself or a component item. Products are also referred to as materials or goods. A product can be tangible or intangible. For example, an organizational structure, a process, or a service, or it can be material itself. So a product, it's not necessary for a product to be tangible. A service is the performance of duties or work for another party. Products are created or updated as parts of solutions to address business needs. Therefore, products should definitely add business value to the organization. The fourth term is the product requirements, and a requirement can be defined as a condition or capability that is required to be present in a product, service, or result to satisfy a business need. This is the requirement. And requirements and the different types of requirements are important for the CAPM exam. So again, a requirement is a condition or capability that should exist in the final product, service, or result in order to meet or satisfy a specific business need. The PMI Guide to Business Analysis uses the term product requirement to describe the types of requirements that are part of the business analysis effort. Product requirements are the primary focus of this guide, and the term requirement without a qualifier is used to specify all product requirement types. So let's see what are the product requirements and how they can be described. A product requirement represents something that can be met by a solution and addresses a need of a business, person, or group of people. A product requirement should be independent of the design of the solution that will address this requirement. So again, the product requirement should be independent of the design of the solution that will address this requirement. Product requirements are specified to clarify and communicate a business need or required capability. The PMI Guide to Business Analysis uses the term product requirement in the broad sense. Therefore, when performing the work of requirements elicitation, specification, or requirements management, one may choose to indicate the type of requirement to be able to communicate whether the product requirement represents a need of the business, an aspect of the solution, or a product requirement for a particular stakeholder group. To provide clarity and context, product requirements are often categorized by type. So we need to understand what are the different types of product requirements. The first one is the business requirement, which describes the higher level needs of the organization, such as business issues or opportunities, reasons why an initiative has been undertaken, and measurable representations of goals the business is seeking to achieve. So if the product requirement is describing a higher level business need, this is a business requirement. Business requirements are used to provide direction for any solution so that the solution addresses the business need. Business requirements are typically defined before a portfolio component, so even before initiating a project, program, or a portfolio component, business requirements should be identified, as they represent the reason why the portfolio component, program, or project has been undertaken, or why the product should be created or modified. An organization may have multiple business requirements. All other remaining product requirement types, which we will explain shortly, such as stakeholder, solution, and transition requirements, are typically defined within the context of a project. So again, requirements can be business requirements, stakeholder requirements, solution requirements, or transition requirements. The business requirement is the only one that is usually defined before the initiation of the project itself. It's from the organizational perspective. Other types are defined within the context of a project. The second type is the stakeholder requirement, which describes the needs of a stakeholder, where the term stakeholder, as defined earlier, refers to an individual, group, or organization that may be affected by or perceive itself to be affected by a decision, activity, or outcome of a portfolio, program, or project. Examples of stakeholders include customers, users, regulators, suppliers, and partners, as well as internal business roles. So any individual, group, or organization that may impact our product or be impacted by our product is considered a stakeholder. And any requirements that comes from stakeholders are known as stakeholder requirements. The third type is the solution requirement, which describes the features, functions, and characteristics of a product that will meet the business and stakeholder requirements. So solution requirements are more specific to the product itself. Solution requirements are further grouped into functional and non-functional requirements. So if the requirement describes the product itself or the features that should be in the product, this is known as a solution requirement. Solution requirements can be functional and non-functional. So functional requirement describes the behaviors of the product. Examples of types of functional requirements include actions, processes, and interactions that the product should perform. So functional requirements exactly describes the behaviors of the product. The data and rules needed to support functional requirements are typically elicited concurrently. The second type is the non-functional requirement, which describes the environmental conditions or qualities required for the product to be effective. So functional requirements will describe the features of the product, the behaviors of the product itself, while non-functional requirements are targeting the environmental conditions where the product should be operated. Non-functional requirements are sometimes known as product quality requirements or quality of service requirements. Examples of non-functional requirements includes the reliability, the security, the performance, safety, level of service, and supportability. So solution requirements describes features, functions, and characteristics of a product. They can be functional or non-functional. Functional, describing the behaviors of the product itself. Non-functional, describing the environmental conditions where the product will operate. The last type of the product requirements is the transition requirement, which describes temporary capabilities such as data conversion and training requirements. If we are moving from a current state to a future state, there will be a transition conducted between these two states. Any requirement that is related to this transition is known as transition requirements. So they are temporary capabilities. They will be used only in the transition phase, such as data conversion and training requirements and operational changes needed to transition from the current state to the future state. Once the transition to the future state is complete, the transition requirements are no longer needed. This is why they are described as temporary capabilities. There are two other types of requirements that are project requirements and quality requirements. However, these two types are not part of the business analysis effort, and they are not considered to be part of the product requirements. They are project requirements, not related to the product itself. Project and quality requirements focus on project execution, and they are part of the project management effort, not from the business analysis effort. Because project and quality requirements are outside the scope of business analysis, they are only discussed here to show context of their relationship to business analysis. So they are not part of the business analyst efforts. Project requirement describes the actions, processes, or other conditions the project needs to meet. Examples of types of project requirements includes milestone dates and constraints. Milestones are significant events in the project timeline with zero duration. So milestone dates, for example, is a project requirement. Quality requirements describes any conditions or criteria needed to validate the successful completion of a project deliverable or the fulfillment of other project requirements. Examples include tests, certifications, and validations. Business analysis focuses on ensuring that the product is of sufficient quality through the development of non-functional requirements. So business analysis efforts and activities focuses on ensuring that the quality of the product is at the top level through making sure non-functional requirements are being implemented. Project management focuses on ensuring that the processes performed to deliver the solution are of sufficient quality through the development of the quality requirements, which we just explained. When the solution adheres to non-functional requirements and the processes to deliver the solution adhere to quality requirements, this will maximize the probability that the solution will be successful and meet the business needs. The figure depicts the relationships that exist among various categories of product and project requirements. So we can see that a single business requirement may be supported by multiple stakeholder and solution requirements. A single stakeholder requirement may be supported by many solution requirements, and solution requirements may be written as functional if they are related to the product itself, or non-functional if they are related to the environment of the product. Because transition requirements describe the transition from the current to future state, they support the implementation of the stakeholder and solution requirements. Usually transition requirements has nothing to do with the business requirements. Another term in the common vocabulary lecture is the product information. So we have the product requirements and product information, two terms that are different and that they will be used frequently in this section. Throughout the performance of the business analysis process, significant amounts of information are created, collected, analyzed, modified, consumed, and shared. It's not only the product requirements. When product information is referred to in process descriptions as an input or as an output, the reference is being made to the most common component of product information that is relevant to the process we are doing. The types of product information in the PMI Guide to Business Analysis may include business goals and objectives, requirements, which we just covered, analysis models, which we will talk about later on, backlogs, user stories, product scope, product risks, assumptions, constraints, dependencies, and issues. All these can be part of the product information that we are gathering as part of our business analysis activities. So we will focus on two things when it comes to the product requirements and product information. All these are examples of product information. If some of these terms are new to you, don't worry, all of these terms will be covered at the later sections of this course. Product information can include different types of or levels of detail. For example, requirements could refer to business requirements or stakeholder requirements, and issues might be stakeholder issues or defects. Product information can take on different stats as various processes consume and produce the information. The product information may be stored in a variety of forms, such as tools, documents, notes, emails, and possibly in people's minds. So there are variety of ways where we can document the product information. Product information is by no means the only information relevant to business analysis processes. Additional kinds of information are used to create and analyze the product information throughout the course of performing business analysis. The type and form of the additional information could include the original source material from which elicitation results came, elicitation notes, emails with additional context about analysis, and verbal or written comments from stakeholders about the product information. Another important term is the solution, and a solution is something that is produced to deliver measurable business value to meet the business need and expectations of the product and the project stakeholders. It defines what a specific portfolio component, program, or project will deliver. So a solution is something that we are producing in order to deliver measurable business value to the organization in order to meet the business needs which the project was created for and the expectations of the stakeholders. The last term is the stakeholder. In project management, a stakeholder is an individual, group, or organization that may be affected by or perceive itself to be affected by a decision, activity, or outcome of a project. In business analysis, it has the same definition, but it's more focusing on the product and the solution. In project management, a stakeholder is an individual, group, or organization that may affect or be affected by the decision or an outcome of a project. The same definition, but for the solution or the product. So in business analysis, stakeholders also include those affected or perceived to be affected by activities and decisions related to the solution. In business analysis, stakeholder identification begins when business analysis activities are performed to define the business need and situation statement, and continues through the development of a business case and during charter development. It's imperative that the stakeholder list be revised on regular basis to return its accuracy. So stakeholders identification is an important topic in terms of business analysis and in terms of the CAPM exam. Developing the stakeholder register after identifying all the stakeholders in the project is very important, and this list of stakeholders should be maintained up to date, revised on regular basis throughout the project. Business analysts work very closely with stakeholders, often on day-to-day basis. There is a lot of collaboration and engagement between the business analyst and the stakeholders. And therefore, they continue to make refinements to the stakeholder register as new information becomes available. Maintaining accuracy of the stakeholder register is critical because when stakeholders are overlooked, there is a high chance that requirements will be missed. And this is something we need to avoid. We don't want to miss any requirement that the stakeholders want to ask for in the final product.